Hello, welcome to the Sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Legacy Open in Baltimore. Brought to you by Ultimate Guard. I'm Nick Miller alongside Todd Anderson. How you doing, sir?
What's up, man? How are you?
Making a push for another Players Championship. You've got the hoodie on from last year.
For good luck. You know, gotta keep it going. Yeah, losing the gym, gotta get my revenge.
Legacy as a format you have played a wide range of decks in, to say the least.
Yeah, that's an understatement for sure. Right. You know, I haven't gotten to play as much Legacy this year as I wanted to, but yeah, we get to play today. You got a good one today. Now this deck was kind of put on the map the last couple of weekends, and you know we've had a bunch of Eternal weekends and those kinds of events. This took down the European one, and you've worked with a couple people, kind of switched some cards out, but you're playing the straight black-red Reanimator deck. Yeah, it actually really pains me not to cast Brainstorm in this format. Brainstorm is just so good, and I would have thought that if I had a chance to play Brainstorm, I would have. Sure. But we're not doing that. We're going for raw power instead. I actually call this Charbelcher Reanimator because we're just trying to combo people as quickly as possible. Right. We're not messing around. You don't have cantrips and things. You're not digging for the right spells. You've played those builds before. You know what my cantrip is? Mulligan. we're just trying to get them dead. But yeah, this version is pretty high on disruption, actually. We have 4 copies of Thoughtseize and Unmask. I think Unmask is actually one of the biggest additions to the deck. You know, in the blue versions, you get a Gristlebrand to play. You draw 7 cards. You usually end up with a Force of Will and a blue card, so you can protect it. You can protect yourself from a combo. This version, however, has a bunch of you know, like Lotus Petals and things like that, Dark Ritual, so you can generate a lot of mana after you start Gristlebranding, so you can actually re-combo on the same turn. Or you have the option to just strip their hand with some Unmasks. The upside of having 4 Thoughtseize and 4 Unmasks, though, is that they actually double as ways to discard the big creatures that are in your hand. So you can very easily start off with Dark Ritual, Thoughtseize myself, and then Reanimate or whatever reanimation spell you like. Right. We've seen, you know, Entomb and Faithless Looting are the traditional ways to get cards in the graveyard for your reanimation spells, but you can also use Thoughtseize or Unmask in a pinch. You know, we've seen Unmask, people that pay attention to Vintage have seen this card pop up there, but this is the first time I've really seen it played in Force and Legacy. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really sure about this deck until I just saw a version on Magic Online that was playing 4 copies of Unmasked, and that really piqued my attention. Previous versions played Collective Brutality, which I think is very good. We still have a couple in the sideboard, and we'll get to that later. Sure. But Unmasked just seemed so exciting. The fact that you can unmask yourself, pitching one of your reanimation targets, and then cast Reanimate off of 1 land means that you can just combo with 1 mana and no other fast mana. It's just so busted. And the fact that, you know, you can just like pitch something, take their best card, because the deck is flooded with redundancy. You know, you have so many ways to get things into the graveyard, so many reanimation spells. We have 11 Reanimator spells, and you really draw, you know, usually 1 or 2 extra per game. Right, and because I think that's important to note, because you don't have these cantrips and the deck manipulation, you need to have a bunch of copies of everything. Right. Let's go over the creature suite, because I think the real key to this deck, Chancellor of the Annex. This is the fun one because, of course, you see this in all these super broken, trying to kill you on the first turn decks. Right, so Chancellor of the Annex gives you the ability to basically force spike your opponent's first play by revealing at the beginning of the game, but also it's just another reanimation target. Since we're not playing blue, we need ways to protect ourselves. So if we're on the play, revealing a Chancellor of the Annex can keep your opponent from using a Force of Will or something like that to disrupt you, and also just is a big creature to put into play with your reanimation spells. It's not easy to beat a 5/6 that Force Spikes every spell you play for the rest of the game, especially on turn 1. Yeah. It's just good enough, I think. Yeah. Of course, you also have Gristlebrand. This is the target du jour of Reanimator decks. Oh, yeah. Holy moly. I almost said a bad word. I've been in an affair with Gristlebrand. Don't tell my wife. For years now, and every time, you know, Gristlebrand comes back around, I just feel like I have to put it in my deck. Right, and of course, Sire Insanity. We saw this early on when this card came out. People were kind of cramming into all these decks, try to strip everyone's hand, and Tidespout Tyrant as well. Yeah, Tidespout Tyrant just gives you, you know, a safety valve against a lot of the more ridiculous things that can go on in Legacy. You know, you play against lands, it gives you protection from like Marit Lage or what have you. So it's just a card that's there. It sometimes gets Swords to Plowshares. It's sometimes the only card you get to reanimate, and that is not very good when you don't have a lot of extra cards in your hand. Sire of Insanity, on the other hand, is just busted. Like there's times where you just get to go Chancellor, Entomb, or like Dark Ritual, Entomb, Reanimate, put in Sire of Insanity, the game's over. Right.
Hope you draw something.
Hope you draw lands and spells that can interact with Sire of Insanity.
All right, now I think we also have to mention, Dark Ritual, Lotus Petal, these are cards we see in a lot of the 10-fin variety of this deck, but you're going for speed here. You want, the older builds with the cantrips and whatnot try to craft a hand and go turn 1 or turn 2 or 3. They have turn 1 possibilities, but not a lot. This deck, you're just pedal to the metal.
Yeah, I'm actually not 100%. This version is better than just 10 fins because being able to, put a hasted Gristlebrand into play means that you get to draw 7 extra cards, so the likelihood of you comboing off with 10 fins is a little higher. The problem is when you're not playing I don't know. I don't actually remember what all's in 10 fins. I don't really know all the differences, but
it's a ridiculous deck.
I know it plays Shallowgrave and Goryo's Vengeance, both of which cost 2. I'm playing Exhume and Animate Dead, both of which cost 2. I don't really know the difference. Right. I just know that one has less creatures that I can reanimate.
Right. They're more of just trying to go for Gristlebrand, generate Storm, or gain a lot of life with Children of Corliss so you can put in Emrakul. You're not going to do that.
Yeah, I don't want to cast Children of Corliss. That's my defense.
It has Tendrils of Agony too, but that's okay.
Yeah, I don't want to cast that card either.
That requires math, and we're not doing that. We're playing Chancellor of the Annex. Let's talk about the sideboard here, because you also have this show and tell kind of package you can move into. Where's this coming in?
All right, so there are a lot of decks that play just random types of graveyard hate, and show and tell gives you a backup plan for those. The original version of the deck played Sneak Attack. It costs 1 extra mana. They also had Blood Moon. I don't really think Blood Moon is a necessary card to have in your deck. Especially when you're trying to just turn 1 people, and when you start doing that, if you turn 1, turn 2 somebody, you don't need to cast Blood Moon, and you don't really need to ramp into Blood Moon either with Simian Spirit Guides, things like that. It's more of a win more card, I think. This deck just has a game plan. If your opponent's able to deal with it, you just have to have a backup. And Sneak Attack was that in the straight black-red version, but I found it to be a little too costly, whereas we have to play 2 copies of Underground Sea in this version, but we get access to Show and Tell, which costs 1 less mana, and I think is a bit more effective. A lot of the decks that are going to have Graveyard Hate are also going to have stuff like Phyrex Invoker, Pithy Needle, and they can shut down your Gristlebrand or your Sneak Attack, depending on which one is more threatening at the time. But with Show and Tell, you just get to board in like Elvish Norn against Elves, and you get to beat their whole deck by just Show and Tell and Hellish Norn.
Putting 1 creature in play.
Yeah, and the same can be said for Sire of Insanity, and they just have to hope their permanent is bigger than yours, and usually it's not, because Sire of Insanity is gigantic.
Yeah, it's important to note of Blood Moon kind of shuts them out of casting spells, but your deck just kind of does that naturally anyway. So
yeah, when you start drawing cards with Gristlebrand, you just get a bunch of, Lotus Petals, Unmasked, Thoughtseizes. You get to take away all their options anyway. So it's not like Blood Moon is really going to do much when you're playing Unmasked. I can understand wanting to play Blood Moon when you're not playing Unmasked, though.
Sure. And then you got a bunch of utility cards here. Pithy Needle, Engineered Explosives. This stuff's kind of good against the hate.
Yeah, so I think Engineered Explosives is just kind of like another catch-all card. Your opponents could play Grafdigger's Cage, Rest in Peace. You also could play against Elves, Death and Taxes, decks that have a bunch of low casting cost permanents, some of which are graveyard hate cards. And having Engineered Explosives not only can deal with those hate cards, but they can kind of just buy you some time. Yeah. And that's sometimes all you need is a turn or 2 to find that one missing piece to the deck.
Pithy Needle, great on Karakas and things like that.
Yeah, mostly for Karakas. Can also shut down Sensei's Divining Top, opposing Sneak Attacks out of Sneak and Show. There's a lot of utility to it. It's not a flashy card, but it does its job.
Okay. Well, you've seen the list. You've seen it do well on Magic Online. It's taking down an event. You know your way around some Reanimator decks, so how you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm coming off my 2 buys in just a minute, and I'm just hoping to put Gristlebrand in play on turn 1, man. That's all I can ask for.
All right. Well, we hope to see that. Todd, thanks for joining me here on the sideboard. Good luck out there.
Thanks, man.
Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Baltimore.